that's basically was my inspiration, was seeing that there was a movement. I could tie textile into making beer by using our warehousing and our logistics services with crossing the grains. And basically that was when I made the jump. Was 2012 was the inspiration for it for me. And then obviously now we have two wonderful businesses that support each other. And I mean, I can go into that a little later in the podcast, but basically the movement got me in 2007 is when I saw craft beer happening and when I saw textile taking a turn for the worse, which it still is. I mean, I don't want to be painting it nice. It's still a rough industry to be in financially. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a cutthroat business, but it still pays the bills, and I still have a love for seeing manufacturing.
Yeah, sure. You know, I appreciate that you saw this dream happening down in Mexico and you made the big jump. I know you're full-time down there, and, you know, obviously we just talked about you being married and you got kids and the whole bit. I mean, what is life like that down there for you compared to what it was in the States? I mean, I know you're loving it, but tell us.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, folks like yourselves come down here to race or you know, drink wine or vacation. It's a trip, Jim, because this is where I live now. I mean, you feel like every day is Margarita Monday, but it's really not. You know, we work like everyone else. It's not, you know, not everyone's swinging on a hammock under a palapa. Yeah. Although I'd love to, but life is different, and in both ways. I mean, I'll say on the positive side, I mean, it's a beautiful place to live. The people are wonderful. You know, I can afford a house, you know, literally right next to the water. As we're talking right now, I'm looking straight out to Isla Todos Santos and, you know, San Miguel, clear as a bell. I mean, having a house like this would be millions of dollars in, you know, wherever, Dana Point or La Jolla or Sunset Cliffs or, you know, wherever people have the same view. And it's just really nice. And like I said, is also, I enjoy going to San Diego. I love going to Target still. People think that's funny I say that.
I do too.
Yeah, but there's a convenience factor of the States that I do miss. You know, my wife and I were at Target last night in Chula Vista, and I made a joke. I'm like, God, I can come in here and I can get everything I need in one swing. And she goes, well, but you don't live here. And I go, you're right. And then on the flip side, there's an excitement when you are seeking things out, especially here in Ensenada. I mean, we literally go to the hardware store for hardware. We go to the lumber store for lumber. We go to, you know, so on the vegetables. We go to a fruteria. Mm-hmm. It's not, they've taken the convenience factor out, but for the right reasons, where you actually get out and enjoy yourself, and you don't order on Amazon and someone pounds on your door and there's a box on the ground. I mean, you engage with people. Yeah. And that I do like. But I do find reprieve now in San Diego. It's where I actually go to take a break, which sounds completely crazy, but that's where we get away from it, since we have two businesses that are pulling on us left and right. But shorts and flip-flops are my suit and tie.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So, you know, just touching on having a business down there, any words of advice for people that want to start a business down in Mexico and move down there and make this their next place? Because I get a ton of, you know, you probably see this all the time. They come down, they fall in love in one day, and they're like, I'm going to move down here. I'm going to work down. You know, a lot of people are saying that, and some people actually do that. So any words of wisdom or advice for people that want to start a business down there and some of the things you encountered?
Sure. I would say the first thing to do, if you're going to spend more than a month of your time coming down here, even as a visitor, I strongly suggest you start by getting your temporary visa. That's the biggest thing that most Americans and Canadians, and I'd say foreigners, extranjeros, think that it's not an important thing. And today, the what do I call it? Not customs, but immigration. Aduana. They're really strict now. I mean, you can't just check out and, you know, buy a house in Rosarito and pretend like everything's okay. Having a visa is very simple to do. It's a little bit of money up front, you know, a couple $300 and some lawyer work, but that allows you to properly live down here temporarily and have certain rights. So if you do encounter problems, you're protected within immigration law. And a lot of Americans, I use Americans as my example, because since you and I are citizens of the U.S.
Sure.
A lot of people dodge that, and I think they're fools for doing that. And it really blemishes all the things that guys like myself are working on, because it just gives that stigma of, people just think it's, a free-for-all down here. This is a moving industry. This is a moving economy. This is a community of people that embrace foreign investment. And if you do it right, you receive a lot of benefits, more so than trying to do things under the radar or grease a palm, or, the old stigma, just don't worry, it's Mexico. That's not the case anymore. So my first advice is to seek, immigration first. It's not a big deal. Big Brother's not looking at you. It just gives you a little bit more comfort when you're driving around, and also you don't have to carry your passport book anymore, because who wants to carry your U.S. passport book around? You lose it, and then you're screwed when you want to go to Europe. So it's like, save it at home. So that would be my first advice. And Jim, if you or any of your friends, I know you're all covered, but any of your friends ever need any personal advice on that, I'm more than happy to guide them correctly.
Okay, great.
Seriously. I've helped a lot of my friends and racers, mutual friends of yours and mine, with that, because having that even as a visitor, going and doing a Raptor run or whatever, when you're in the middle of nowhere and you get stopped and you forgot your passport, the old birth certificate doesn't work anymore. Yeah. It's really important to have your visa.
Yeah.
Along those lines, choose your partners right. I've just experienced who I thought was like just an amazing, amazing accounting firm. Oh, we're going to guide you. We're going to help you. We're going to find investment. We're going to guide you tax-wise correctly. Be very, 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 very careful on who you trust when it comes to fiscal work here, because being a foreigner, you don't know all the tax laws, and of course, all the strategies are always to try to get the best and lowest taxes, as in the States.
Yeah, sure.
But down here, you have different rights, both positive and negative, and if not handled right, you could be liable for certain taxes that you weren't aware of. And a lot of accountants, including recent experiences I had, told me one thing, but then once you start to learn, you go away from being naive and starting to wonder. When you start to move a lot of money in and out of this country, you really start to go, geez, man, why did you make that decision? Or why wasn't I advised? And then once you confront them for that, then they're like, oh, I thought you knew, or we told you, or your bookkeeper knew. So there's a lot of hot potato when it comes to accounting. And that would be my second advice to anyone, whether they're buying a home, doing a corporation. Make sure you know who you're working with your fiscal work, because, you're not going to go to jail or anything like that, but it could just hurt you, tax you literally, financially. And it's a lot of effort and a lot of conversations and a lot of visits, and still a lot of paperwork that's done down here. And that's the other thing, is get with someone that can minimize the amount of paperwork, because paperwork can start to bury you if you have the wrong partners.
Yeah, sure. So it sounds like if you're going to start a business down there, when it comes to accounting, maybe meet some other business leaders and interview the right accountants and people that are taking care of your documentation, so you've got somebody that's been referred to you that is proven, right? Instead of just opening up getting on the computer and looking at Google or whatever you have, right?
Yeah, exactly, Jim. Don't get sold down the road by the first, shiny tooth, because there really is. There's some good flim-flam men down here, and there's some of them are professional flim-flam men. And I've seen it in the wine country. I've seen it in the agriculture down in San Quintin. I've luckily been fortunate enough to become part of a network of I don't want to say YPO, because that's, so cliche, but other people, both nationals and foreigners that have business here. And I've been able to, navigate through a lot of that nonsense and meet some great people that have had scars or stripes on their shoulders from learning the hard way. And they've been able to guide me. And fortunately, we have created a new pathway with some great people that work with some of the reputable wine companies here that you work with, some of the vegetable packers that send stuff, for Driscoll's, and some of the berry companies for Costco. And those guys are the ones I take advice from. Yeah. Since they're working in the billions down here. They're moving the nation's economy of vegetables and fruits and the national wine for Mexico. And those are people I take sound advice from. Those are the ones I want to be partnered up with, not someone that's looking for the quick deal and trying to make a political face for themselves on a billboard or be the next mayor or whatever. I mean, I don't want to be part of those guys.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something, because we could probably go through a whole list of advice, and I really appreciate that you've offered our listeners to
Sure.
seek you out if they need help. Here's the big question.
Sure.
Are you making money?
Yes.
Right? Because that's what really
Yes.
that's what people want to know, right? Can I go down there and make money? I mean, look, I know your place is busy, but you can turn a profit down there in Mexico and have a nice lifestyle.
Yeah, no, we're doing great. I mean, no one ever wants to say they're losing money or stacking chips. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not getting rich overnight. It's not a get rich quick plan. But what I have done, and I'm sure others have done in other industries, but I'm just speaking about our scenario, is I have become a very strong force in the craft beer movement for the reasons that I've applied a lot of my American knowledge, U.S. knowledge, to the Mexican market. And again, like I said from the get-go, is quality and consistency, no matter what your industry is, to me is the name of the game. I mean, you can come down here and throw $500,000 at a bunch of brewery equipment or winery equipment or Airbnb and go broke, or you could do it right and focus on the quality and marketing and making sure you have the right people crossing your doorway every day. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, I think the important thing to understand is that you can go down to Mexico, you can create a living for yourself, and have a comfortable lifestyle. Because you talked about the cost of living down there, like where you live. It's affordable. You've got the views that you probably couldn't afford in La Jolla, and your life is just it's what you imagine it to be. And I think people need to understand that they can go down there and enjoy a lot of these amenities of a wonderful country like Mexico.
Yeah, and you also have the freedom to go back and forth too. I guess that would be my other advice. If you really are going to travel down here, seek out the global entry. If you haven't already, it's a really nice benefit. And not only does it work for just the border, it's land and sea for the century, but global entry is, air, land, and sea. And that takes about 6 months right now. And that also is a benefit because being able to jump back and forth, whether you live in Southern California or Arizona or, Nevada, which are some of the people that, I also, you and I both know through racing and personal stuff down here. It's a great place to call a second home. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to retire, but it's also a great place to really engage permanently. You know, if you really want to live here and work remotely. I mean, I have a lot of friends that work remotely. They live in Scorpion Bay and they do tax work in Portland, Oregon, and they go to Portland once a year. So there's those kind of businesses too, where you can do things from a computer and flip flops and looking at the surf, but also, keep your footprint in the States and also, create a footprint here in the beautiful country of Mexico. Cause I love it, man. I mean, I'm a permanent resident. I'm not a dual citizen. I haven't seen the need to become a dual citizen at this point. My wife obviously is national, but being a permanent resident does basically put you in the same game. And I pay taxes here. I file in the United States still to keep my citizenship, because I will never let go of my U.S. citizenship. I'm a proud U.S. citizen. But this is where I pay taxes, and I'm not contributing to the U.S. tax anymore because I don't have a footprint there. I don't own a home there. I mean, I have a bank account to pay taxes from the Mexico side. So that's the one thing, that's the other little. Once you make that jump, then you have to decide where you want to pay. And if you have a business here, if you want to deduct it in the States, or either way. But it works out well being a resident here. Awesome. And enjoying the benefits. And there's also the quirkiness, Jim. The potholes drive you crazy. You see families with lots of money that don't have their kids in car seats. That stuff drives me batshit. I can't stand that. Yeah. And that's something that's just cultural. But I can also drive 20 minutes from here where I'm looking out my window. I can be at Corona del Valle in 20 minutes right now having a 5-star meal and a glass of Nebbiolo and just stoked. You know what I mean? Or I could go half a kilometer and go have a crushable IPA at my brewery, you know, and blink and I feel like I'm in, Laguna Beach. Yeah. So it's your call how you want to look at the picture here. But doom and gloom, people dying in acid barrels, gunshots, all that. Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah, and not part of my program. Yeah, and you're down there. Hey, you guys have a lot. Let's shift gears a little bit. You have a lot going on at the brewery. I always see wonderful events. You've got all kinds of new
partners that you're working with. You're doing specific distillations. Let's talk a little bit about some of the fun things you have coming up and what you've been up to.
Sure.